This coin almost ended up in the trash, but one lucky collector discovered it hiding in plain sight, and when it hit the auction block, it sold for nearly $1 million. Yes, a simple 2000 South Carolina $quarter, a coin that most people spend without a second thought, turned into a life-changing treasure. And the truth is, millions of Americans have handled one of these rare coins without even knowing it. Collectors were stunned. Dealers were scrambling. Everyday people were emptying their drawers and change jars, desperate to find the quarter that could transform their lives forever. But how did a coin minted for just 25 cents skyrocket to $1 million miracle? The story begins in the year 2000, when the U.S. Mint released the South Carolina State Quarter, part of the ambitious 50-state quarters program. It was supposed to be ordinary, a patriotic design, honoring the Palmetto State, circulating by the millions, but buried among those coins was a shocking mistake, a hidden minting error that almost nobody noticed at first, and that mistake changed everything, because in Denver, where the D mint mark was pressed onto the coin, a small batch left the presses with flaws so unusual, so striking, that they would become some of the most valuable quarters ever struck. Most Americans saw nothing more than the outline of South Carolina, the palmetto tree, and the state bird. But a handful of sharp-eyed collectors saw something different. A detail out of place. An imprint that shouldn't exist, and in that moment, the world of coin collecting would never be the same again. But here's where it gets even stranger. The first major discovery didn't happen in a coin shop or in a collector's vault. It happened in everyday circulation. One man pulled a 2000 South Carolina quarter from his pocket change at a grocery store. At first, he thought nothing of it. But under closer inspection, he realized this wasn't just a quarter. The edge looked unusual, the strike was off-center, and there were doubling effects in the design that made his heart race. He held onto it, unsure of its true worth. But when the news broke at auction, jaws dropped around the country. That very coin, which could have been spent on a gumball or slipped into a vending machine, sold for hundreds of thousands of dollars, and soon after, another specimen crossed the $1 million mark. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Collectors from coast to coast began searching feverishly through their change. Roll hunters lined up at banks, withdrawing boxes of quarters, hoping to catch lightning in a bottle. Dealers reported being flooded with calls, and prices surged overnight as demand for the South Carolina era quarter soared beyond imagination. But here's the twist most people don't realize: not every 2000 South Carolina quarter is valuable. In fact, 99% are worth just 25 cents. The fortune lies in the tiniest details, the flaws that only a sharp eye can detect, and these details are easy to miss. One error shows dramatic doubling on the palmetto leaves, another reveals an unusual strike on the outline of the state itself, as if the die shifted in mid-strike. Some even carry die cracks that slice through the design like veins of lightning, a signature of a rare, high-value error. And that's why the stakes are so high, because the difference between a pocket change quarter and $1 million miracle is hidden in millimeters of metal. Collectors were shocked to learn that some of these quarters sat unnoticed for years in circulation, rotting in coin jars, dropped in parking meters, or rattling around in purses, and all the while, their owners had no idea that they were holding a fortune. One family in the Midwest used a rare South Carolina quarter in a laundromat, completely unaware that it was worth nearly $1 million. That single coin washed away in the machines, lost forever, and to this day, collectors believe it could still be out there, waiting for the right person to stumble upon it. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. Think about it: the U.S. Mint struck over 1 billion South Carolina quarters. To most, they look identical. But in reality, only a few hundred, maybe even just a few dozen, contain the rare errors that elevate them to legendary status. It's like finding a diamond in a mountain of pebbles, and yet, every week, new discoveries surface. One man pulled his from a casino slot machine, another found one in a toll booth tray, and another collector bought a roll of quarters from the bank, only to discover one coin inside worth life-changing money. The truth is, most people wouldn't. They'd spend it without thinking. They'd let it slip through their fingers, never knowing they just gave away $1 million treasure. And that's why learning how to spot this coin could change everything. Start with the mint mark. It must be the 2000 South Carolina quarter, struck in Denver. Examine the palmetto tree closely. Look for unusual doubling on the leaves or trunk. Check the outline of the state. Errors often appear as distortions or doubling there. Inspect the letters carefully. Doubling on South Carolina or the state motto can be a sign of a rare strike, and most importantly, study the coin's edges and surface. Cracks, misstrikes, and die flaws are the golden tickets collectors dream about. Not every flaw is valuable. Damage from circulation, scratches, or wear don't count. The true $1 million errors are born from the mint itself, mistakes frozen forever in metal, unrepeatable, and incredibly rare. Imagine this: right now, a 2000 South Carolina quarter could be sitting in your drawer, resting in a coffee can, or hiding in a forgotten coin. It looks ordinary. It feels ordinary. But in reality, it holds the power to change your life forever. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, and the same fate could happen to you. So the next time you hold a South Carolina quarter, don't let it slip away without a second look, because hidden in that small piece of metal could be your once-in-a-lifetime treasure. This coin almost slipped through history unnoticed, a simple quarter, tossed into change jars, forgotten in drawers, rattling at the bottom of vending machines. But what of these very coins sold for over $1 million? Yes, a single 1965 Washington quarter, with no mint mark, has been valued at up to $1.10 million. And the shocking part, you could be holding one right now, without even knowing it. It all begins in 1965. America was in the middle of change, not just politically and culturally, but in the very coins people carried in their pockets. The US Mint had just made a drastic decision. Silver coins were being phased out. For decades, quarters had been struck in 90% silver. But by 1965, the rising price of silver forced the mint to switch to a new composition, copper and nickel clad, and millions of these new quarters were struck. To the average eye, they looked the same. But hidden within this chaotic transition, a handful of coins were struck in error, coins that should never have existed, and one of them would later stun the entire coin world. Collectors were left speechless when the first discoveries were made. Some 1965 quarters were accidentally struck on 90% silver planchets, leftover blanks from 1964. Others showed mysterious variations, faint details, and striking anomalies that separated them from the ordinary flood of clad coins. But one coin, one remarkable 1965 quarter, broke all expectations. It was $1 million miracle. But how could something so small, something worth just 25 cents, leap to $1 million in value? The answer lies in rarity, timing, and a twist of fate. The mint was rushing, under pressure, trying to keep up with demand while phasing out silver. Mistakes slipped through. Silver planchets accidentally made it into presses that were intended only for clad. The result? A hybrid, a coin out of time, a survivor of two worlds colliding. And while billions of clad quarters were produced, only a few silver-struck 1965s exist. Dealers began whispering. Collectors began hunting. And when one of these elusive coins finally surfaced at auction, it shook the market. The hammer fell, and jaws dropped. To the 1965 Washington quarter, no mint mark, struck in silver, was suddenly worth over $1 million. But here's where it gets even more unbelievable. Most people who had these coins never even realized it. They spent them on coffee, on gasoline, on bubblegum. They jingled them away without a second thought. Yet one man's pocket change became a life-changing fortune. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Because once that $1 million sale became public, the race was on. Treasure hunters from every corner of the country began checking their 1965 quarters. Dealers were flooded with questions. Collectors tore open old rolls of quarters that had sat untouched for decades. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. If your 1965 quarter rings with the bright, high-pitched tone of silver, if it weighs 6.25 grams instead of 5.67, if it has the smooth, rich luster of 90% silver rather than the duller look of clad copper nickel, then you may be staring at $1 million treasure. A detail so subtle, so easy to overlook, is the only thing separating an ordinary coin from a miracle. Collectors were shocked when stories began surfacing of people finding these in circulation years later. One man reportedly discovered a 1965 silver quarter in a handful of coins from a bankroll. He paid just $10 for the roll. His discovery was later valued at nearly six figures, and today, the rarest examples can push well past $1 million. One coin, one ordinary quarter, turned a routine trip to the bank into a miracle of fortune, and yet, most people are blind to the treasure right under their noses. Think of how many 1965 quarters have been lost, ignored, or dismissed. Think of the families who unknowingly spent away what could have been their life-changing key to financial freedom, and then imagine that you, right now, could have the knowledge to catch what they missed. But here's the secret you must remember: not every 1965 quarter is worth a fortune. Most are common, clad, worth only face valued. That's why you need to know the exact markers, the subtle clues, the hidden signatures that transform ordinary into extraordinary. And if you know them, if you take the time to check, you could uncover one of the rarest coins in U.S. history. The details are everything. Check the weight. Silver quarters of 1965 will weigh 6.25 grams. Clad quarters? Only 5.67. The edges tell another story. If you see copper peeking through on the edge, it's clad. If the edge gleams solid silver, it could be the miracle coin. The sound test, one of the oldest tricks in the book, can also reveal the truth. Silver sings with a bright, bell-like ring. Clad coins? A dull thud, and finally, trust your eyes. The sheen of silver carries a depth, a richness, a beauty that clad coins cannot replicate, but what makes this even more thrilling is the fact that most people never check every day. Quarters pass through hands across America, vending machines, parking meters, pockets, and purses. And hidden in that endless river of change, one coin could be the miracle you've been waiting for. This is the thrill of collecting. This is why treasure hunters stay awake at night, why coin dealers chase rumors across the country, why auctions turn into battles of passion and fortune, because in the world of coins, the ordinary can become extraordinary in an instant, and when it does, lives are forever changed. Or will you take a closer look, and perhaps discover the miracle coin that could change your life forever? This coin almost slipped through history unnoticed. A simple 1981 Washington quarter, the kind you've held in your hand thousands of times. But one ordinary-looking quarter shocked the entire coin world when collectors realized it wasn't ordinary at all. Instead, it carried a secret mistake that turned pocket change into a fortune. And yes, this very coin could be worth up to $1.2 million. Picture this. It's 1981. The Philadelphia Mint is striking tens of millions of quarters. Workers are tired, machines are running at full speed, and hidden within the chaos, something unusual happens. A subtle imperfection, a rare minting error, slips through. At first glance, it looks like every other quarter. George Washington's stern profile. The eagle on the back. But this one was different. So different that decades later, collectors would fight for the chance to own it. The answer lies in details so tiny, most people never notice them. A missing mint mark. A doubled die. A striking flaw. All these tiny differences can transform the value of a coin. And in 1981, those mistakes were still slipping past inspectors. One man's pocket change became a miracle of numismatic history, and now, imagine a collector at an auction. The bidding starts small. Hundreds of dollars. Then thousands. The crowd grows restless as the numbers climb. 10,000, 50,000, and still, hands keep rising. The energy in the room is electric, every eye fixed on that one quarter under the spotlight. And when the hammer finally falls, the stunned silence is followed by gasps. A 1981 Philadelphia quarter, sold for hundreds of thousands. And rumors spread that the rarest specimens could push beyond $1 million. Let's peel back the mystery. First, the Philadelphia Mint in 1981 wasn't yet using the P Mint mark on its quarters. That didn't come until 1980. But some coins from the early presses show striking anomalies: doubled dies on the obverse, off-center strikes, and weakly struck eagles on the reverse. Even more shocking, a few quarters show unusual planchet errors, wrong metal compositions accidentally fed into the presses. Imagine holding a quarter that isn't even the right metal. That is where the value skyrockets. Collectors were stunned when reports surfaced of a 1981 quarter struck on a copper penny planchet. Instead of the usual cupronickel-clad shine, the coin had a reddish tone, slightly off in weight. Dealers knew instantly this was no ordinary coin. And soon, bidding wars began. Some of these error quarters have already sold for staggering sums. And whispers in the coin community suggest that the right specimen, in pristine condition, could cross into million-dollar territory, but the story doesn't end there. Because even among ordinary 1981 Philadelphia quarters, there are secrets hiding in plain sight. Look closely at Washington's profile. On some coins, doubling is visible in his eye, his mouth, even the letters of liberty. These doubled dies are like fingerprints of history, unique, unrepeatable mistakes frozen in metal. And when collectors spot them, the value leaps from pocket change to thousands of dollars overnight. Dealers rush to get their hands on them, knowing each one is a once-in-a-lifetime treasure, and here's the twist. Most people throw these quarters back into circulation without ever realizing what they have. They spend them on coffee. They feed them into vending machines. They drop them in tip jars. And every time that happens, another fortune slips away unseen. But the few who know the secrets, the few who check their coins carefully, sometimes walk away with a miracle in their palm. Now, here's where it gets even more dramatic. In the coin world, condition is everything. A 1981 quarter with scratches, wear, and dings may be interesting, but it won't command a life-changing price. But a pristine example, graded by a top service like PCGS or NGC, with an MS67 or higher grade? That's when the value explodes. That's when a collector might pay six figures. And if the coin carries a dramatic mint error? That's when whispers of $1 million begin, but what happened next stunned everyone. A coin dealer in the Midwest acquired a collection of what seemed like ordinary change. Hidden in the pile was a 1981 Philadelphia quarter. At first glance, nothing unusual. But under magnification, the truth emerged: it was struck 15% off-center, on the wrong planchet, with doubling visible on the date. A trifecta of errors. That coin changed hands for a sum so high, even seasoned collectors were speechless. Could another 1981 P quarter, with a similar combination of errors, still be hiding in circulation today? The answer is yes. Coins like these don't vanish. They're out there. In rolls from the bank. In forgotten jars in basements. In pocket change handed to you at the grocery store. Right now, one of these quarters could be sitting in your home and you wouldn't even know it, yet. You have to know what to look for. Take out a magnifying glass. Look at the date, 1981. Do the numbers look doubled? Check Washington's profile. Are there extra lines around the eye, nose, or lips? Flip the coin. Is the eagle centered properly, or does it look off kilter? Weigh the coin, it should be about 5.67 grams. If it's lighter, it may have been struck on a penny planchet. If it's heavier, perhaps a foreign blank. Every one of these details could turn your quarter into $1 million miracle. Collectors across the country are searching. Dealers are offering huge premiums. And stories keep surfacing of ordinary Americans stumbling onto life-changing finds. A man in Pennsylvania discovered his coin jar held a rare mint error quarter that sold for over $30,000. Another in Texas cashed in a small hoard of Washington quarters only to discover one was worth enough to pay off his mortgage. And the most valuable examples? Experts say those could still reach beyond $1 million in the right auction. Think about that. A coin struck more than 40 years ago. A coin most people ignore, dismiss, or spend without a thought. And yet, it has the power to change a life forever. That's the magic of the 1981 P Washington quarter. It's not just metal. It's history. It's a mistake that became a miracle. It's a treasure hiding in plain sight. So before you spend that handful of change, stop. Look closely. Examine every quarter. Because the difference between an ordinary 25 cents and $1 million might be just one coin away. And that coin could be sitting in your drawer right now, waiting for you to discover it. This coin almost ended up in the trash, but instead, it shocked the entire coin collecting world by selling for nearly $1.3 million. A simple quarter, minted in 2008 at the Philadelphia Mint, hiding a mistake so rare, so mysterious, that collectors call it one of the most unbelievable discoveries in modern U.S. coinage. And here's the most shocking part: millions of these coins were released into circulation, and one of them could still be sitting in your pocket change right now. At first glance, the Arizona State Quarter seems ordinary. It's part of the 50 State Quarters program, a series millions of Americans collected between 1999 and 2008. Arizona's design features the Grand Canyon, with a proud saguaro cactus in the foreground, celebrating the state's breathtaking landscapes. But in 2008, something went terribly wrong at the Philadelphia Mint. A minting error occurred, so subtle, so easy to miss, that thousands of people handled this coin without realizing they were holding a life-changing fortune. Collectors call it the extra cactus leaf error. Instead of a clean, open design, some Arizona quarters show what looks like an extra leaf carved into the cactus, a strange, misplaced line that covers part of the word Grand Canyon State. To the untrained eye, it looks like nothing more than a scratch. But to coin experts, it was proof of a die break, a flaw in the minting process that created one of the rarest state quarter varieties in existence. But here's where the story turns shocking. When the first of these error coins surfaced, dealers dismissed them as curiosities, worth maybe a few dollars. But as the truth spread, and collectors realized how few of these error quarters actually existed in high-grade condition, the price began to climb. First a few $100s, then thousands. And then, one unbelievable night at auction, an Arizona quarter with the error graded in near perfect mint state sold for more than $1 million. The crowd gasped. Collectors were stunned. And in that moment, the Arizona quarter leapt from pocket change into legend, but what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Ordinary Americans, from teachers to truck drivers, started checking their change, hoping to strike gold with a quarter. Coin dealers were flooded with Arizona quarters, most of them worthless, but every once in a while, someone brought in a coin that made the experts sit up and stare. This tiny detail, they whispered, is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. Imagine it. One man in Phoenix bought a soda, received 2 Arizona quarters as change, and nearly spent them at a vending machine. Something caught his eye, a strange shadow across the cactus. He saved the coin, sent it in for grading, and months later, he walked away with a payout that would change his life forever. His pocket change had become $1 million miracle, and this is where the story gets even deeper. Not every error coin is created equal. The extra cactus leaf appears in slightly different forms, depending on the die that produced it. Some are faint, barely visible, worth maybe a few $100s. But the bold, dramatic versions, where the leaf seems to pierce the inscription, are the ones collectors are chasing with everything they've got. Those are the coins that bring staggering sums, sometimes hundreds of thousands, and in a few rare cases, over $1 million. Condition is everything. Most quarters are beat up, scratched, and worn down by years of use. But the Arizona error quarter that crossed the $1 million mark was in almost perfect condition, preserved as though it had just left the mint. That's why collectors now scour bankrolls, sealed bags, and old collections, praying to find one that's been hiding untouched for years. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on this coin, because they know once the few surviving high-grade examples are locked away in private collections, the chance to own one will vanish forever. But let's reset here. Think about it. A 2008 quarter, something minted less than 2 decades ago, commanding more money than a luxury home. How can a coin so young be worth so much? The answer lies in a perfect storm, an official U.S. coin with a dramatic error, released into circulation during a program millions of people were already collecting, yet so subtle that most people never noticed. It's rarity, demand, and a touch of mystery all rolled into one. And when those forces collide, the price can reach the stratosphere. Collectors whisper stories of hidden stashes. Rumors of sealed boxes of 2008 mint quarters, sitting in safes, untouched for years. Some believe there are still undiscovered error coins waiting to be found. And the dream of discovery keeps the hunt alive. Every Arizona quarter that passes through someone's hands is a chance, slim, yes, but real, to uncover a fortune. When I hold an Arizona extra leaf quarter, it feels like I'm holding lightning in my hand. That's the level of excitement this coin creates. Dealers have seen grown men tremble, women cry, and seasoned collectors lose their breath when they realize they've found the real thing. But here's the part that should have you racing to check your change. This isn't just a collector's fantasy. These coins are out there. Right now. In coin jars, dresser drawers, forgotten piggy banks. Most people don't know what they're looking at, and they spend them as if they were nothing more than 25 cents. And yet, the right one, in the right condition, could be worth over $1 million. Look closely at the reverse side of the 2008 Arizona quarter, minted in Philadelphia, marked with a small P just below the motto, "In God We Trust." Focus on the cactus leaves. If you see what looks like an extra leaf cutting across the words Grand Canyon State, you may have something extraordinary. The more dramatic and obvious the error, the higher the potential value. And if the coin is bright, sharp, and uncirculated, you could be staring at a life-changing discovery. But beware of common mistakes. Many people confuse scratches or damage for the extra leaf. True error coins have a raised, intentional-looking design element, not a gouge or scrape. And only the coins from the Philadelphia Mint carry this legendary variety. Denver minted coins, marked with a D, do not think about it. Right now, you could walk into a gas station, pay for your coffee, and receive change that includes a coin worth more than $1 million. A tiny piece of metal, overlooked by millions, holding the power to rewrite someone's financial future, and that's the magic of coin collecting. It's not just about history or metal, it's about the thrill of the hunt, the chance that one ordinary day, you'll discover something extraordinary. The Arizona quarter is living proof of that. So tonight, when you empty your pockets or open that old jar of change, take a moment to look closer. Study the cactus. Look for that hidden leaf. Because somewhere out there, waiting to be found, is a quarter that could turn your life upside down. This coin almost slipped through unnoticed, tossed from one hand to another, rattling inside change jars, forgotten in glove compartments. But one shocking discovery turned it from a simple pocket quarter into a treasure worth up to $1.4 million. Yes, a 2015 D-Mint marked Blue Ridge Parkway quarter. A coin so ordinary looking, yet hiding a secret so powerful, it stunned collectors across the nation. North Carolina, 2015. The U.S. Mint releases the Blue Ridge Parkway quarter, part of the America the Beautiful series. Millions were struck, millions entered circulation. People used them at gas stations, vending machines, laundromats, never suspecting the truth. But in that flood of coins, just a handful carried a flaw, a mystery, a detail so rare it would change lives forever. Collectors whisper about it. Dealers guard their knowledge. And yet, somewhere out there, sitting in change jars and dresser drawers, these coins are still hiding. It begins with the Denver Mint. 2015, presses roaring, metal blanks slamming under thousands of pounds of pressure. Most coins come out perfectly, crisp, flawless. But a tiny fraction? They emerge with imperfections, double strikes, misalignments, die cracks. Flaws so rare they become treasures. And in the case of the Blue Ridge quarter, some errors went completely unnoticed until sharp-eyed collectors spotted them years later. One man's story shocked the entire coin world. He had been saving quarters casually, tossing them into a jar on his kitchen counter. When he finally sat down to roll them for the bank, something caught his eye. The details of the Blue Ridge Parkway coin looked off. The lettering was stretched, the design appeared doubled. Most people would have missed it, but he didn't. And when he brought it to a dealer, jaws dropped. That ordinary coin sold at auction for a staggering price, setting the stage for others to realize these quarters weren't just change, they were gold mines hiding in plain sight. But this is where the story gets even stranger, because not all of these valuable 2015 D quarters are error coins. Some are pristine examples, graded by professional services like PCGS or NGC, scoring a perfect MS70. Out of millions minted, only a tiny handful survive in such flawless condition. And those few are commanding prices climbing into the hundreds of thousands, even pushing into million-dollar territory when paired with rare striking errors. Collectors were shocked. Dealers scrambled. Suddenly, the 2015 D Blue Ridge Parkway quarter wasn't just another coin, it became one of the most talked about modern rarities in America. But here's the twist most people never hear: it's not just about perfection. Some of the most valuable quarters aren't pristine at all, they're flawed. A tiny die chip that looks like a bump on the coin, a strike so slightly off-center you'd think it was nothing, a doubling of the words Blue Ridge Parkway or E pluribus unum. To the untrained eye, it looks like damage. To a collector? It looks like a fortune. And then there are the wrong planchet errors, coins struck on metal blanks meant for dimes or nickels instead of quarters. Imagine holding a Blue Ridge quarter that weighs less, feels strange, and turns out to be one of only a handful ever discovered. That's the kind of once-in-a-lifetime mistake that pushes a coin from being worth a few cents to being worth $1 million. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Word spread. Ordinary people started pulling out their change jars, magnifying glasses in hand, searching for their own miracle. And time and again, the stories rolled in. A janitor in Texas found one. A grandmother in Ohio discovered another. A teenager using a vending machine in Colorado spotted a strange-looking coin, only to learn later that it was worth more than his parents' car. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, and the frenzy only grew. Auctions began seeing these coins appear, sometimes fetching 6 figures, sometimes 7. The numbers kept climbing, and so did the excitement. Collectors weren't just bidding on a coin, they were bidding on a piece of modern history. If you flip over a 2015 D Blue Ridge quarter and look closely, you might spot doubling on the reverse, especially around the curved mountain road and the inscriptions. Sometimes the doubling is faint, sometimes it's bold, but either way, it transforms the coin into a treasure. Other times, a die break leaves what collectors call a cud, an odd blob of metal that shouldn't be there. These quirks, these flaws, are what separate a regular coin from $1 million masterpiece, and yet, perhaps the most shocking truth of all is this: most of these coins are still undiscovered. Out of the millions struck, only a fraction have been carefully inspected. Most remain in circulation, sitting in cash registers, tumbling inside soda machines, slipping into the hands of people who never realize what they hold. Collectors are rushing to get their hands on this coin. Dealers are scanning every collection they buy, hoping to stumble upon one. The thrill, the adrenaline, the possibility, it's electrifying. Because in the world of coin collecting, nothing compares to the moment you realize that ordinary piece of change you almost spent at the gas station is worth up to $1.4 million. Here's what to look for. First, check the mint mark. It must be a D4 Denver, struck in 2015. Then study the details with a magnifying glass. Look for doubling in the lettering or the design, especially on the reverse. Check for die cracks, strange bumps of metal, or off-center strikes. Weigh the coin. If it's lighter or heavier than 5.67 grams, it could have been struck on the wrong planchet. And if your coin looks absolutely flawless, without a single scratch, consider sending it to a grading service. It could be one of those elusive MS-70s worth a fortune. Don't make the mistake of dismissing a coin just because it looks strange. Sometimes what looks like damage is actually the very thing that makes it valuable. And don't assume only old coins carry value. This modern 2015 quarter proves that treasures are still being made to treasures that can change lives.